Hi, my name is Raffaela. I am the Militant Vegan, and this is a podcast today that I'm joined with Paul Bashir. He is the co-founder and now director of Anonymous for the Voiceless, and in this podcast we would like to discuss finances of being an individual activist for the animals and also the finance troubles, the highs and lows of founding a big foundation for animal rights that is very effective internationally. So I'm very happy to have you here and to discuss all the questions that I, as someone who is very active in Anonymous for the Voiceless and who also used to be an organizer with you, I didn't know a lot that I would want to find out today. And I think many people don't understand what it takes to do what you do. And I would really like to get into that today.
Let's get into it.
So my first question would be, what made you go from a normal, trivial, quote-unquote life to being a full-time animal rights activist?
So there's the short answer and then there's a long answer.
Give us the long answer.
Yeah, so that's, I guess, what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
So the long answer is that I was very ambitious. My focus was on music for about 8 or 9 years, nearly 10 years. I wanted to do that with my whole life. I wanted to devote my whole life to that. But I was caught up in ambition, and the things that I was ambitious about didn't fulfill me in a way that I could already tell that it wasn't going to actually fulfill me in the way that I wanted it to fulfill me.
Like as a human, feeling fulfilled, like having found your purpose in life.
Exactly, that kind of thing,
Okay.
yes.
And how did it fulfill you?
So it did fulfill me because it was really cool, obviously, to be able to do music and to collaborate with other artists and to perform and to get attention and to see opportunities and to hear from my favorite artists who said that they would do music with me and things like that. It felt great, right? But then I had a period of time, it was about a year, where I felt really disenchanted with all of it. And then I ended up going into a bit of a spiritual path, I guess you could call it, because I ended up just wanting to listen, to pay attention to what was calling me the most. And that's really hard to do because you have to cut out all of the distractions and all of the habits that you have that keep you distracted and things like that. So I ended up going on a path of like seeking truth, for lack of a better term, and I ended up becoming a fruitarian for 2 years, and I also stopped buying clothes, stopped my attachment to materials as much as I could. I think I only spent $100 on material like clothing or stuff like that in a whole year.
Wow.
And then I decided that I wanted to go out into nature more. So I would organise trips to far north Queensland. I lived in Melbourne my whole life, and Melbourne is not tropical, but far north Queensland is legitimate tropics. And the first time I went there, I met a local there, and he offered to take me on a trek through the Daintree rainforest, which is the oldest rainforest in the world. It's older than the Amazon rainforest. And he took me on a guided trek through that jungle, which was a 6.5 hour trek. And it was phenomenal. There was no other humans out there, you know, seeing these waterfalls like in the middle of the rainforest. It was just phenomenal. The next year I went back there, and I had thought about it for a whole year. And I went back there the next year, and I went and did it by myself this time.
Oh.
And I nearly died a couple of times.
A couple of times, yes. Even? Okay.
During the trek, yeah, because you have to climb up these big boulders, and then on the way down it's the most risky.
Like really climb?
Well, yeah, you have to like sort of balance between them and get up onto the next one. And
how did you know the route without having a guide?
Well, the year before that I was given guidance. So,
and you remembered that?
Yes, I remembered
like every stone, every turn?
No, it wasn't. It was a straight path all the way, but the terrain was really difficult. That's why other tourists weren't out there. It was just you and the rainforest. And because I had the confidence knowing that I had done it already with someone there with me, I thought I can do it this time by myself. But on the way back, it was the most dangerous because you're descending, and when you're coming downhill and you're, relying on a tree.
And it's slippery.
And there was 2 points where I thought, if I make one wrong move here, I'm done. So anyway, that was that trek. I took my time with it, and it lasted 7 hours. And these were the moments at this point in my life where I was really paying attention to what mattered for me and what I really wanted to spend my life doing. Because you only get one life, and you have to dedicate it to something that you, at the end of your life, are going to be happy with, and you're glad you did. And anyway, so I ended up plant-based, right? I was fruitarian, plant-based. I found out about the truth about how to heal your body from diseases that are common in society that you can prevent or reverse through plant-based diet. And all these things started to really make me angry about like the world we lived in and how much we're lied to. And then I stumbled across Gary Yourofsky's
best speech ever.
Yeah, the Georgia Tech speech. Actually, leading up to that, I was also studying nutrition. So I went from doing music and I was also working in sales, like to pay my bills. And then I was studying nutrition. I did 2 years out of 4 years of a naturopathy degree to become a naturopath. And I also became certified in plant-based nutrition through the T. Colin Campbell Foundation and Cornell University online. And I started to run a brand called The Health Cosmos, which was all about educating people on holistic nutrition. And I ran a Twitter account and a Tumblr blog, and I was consulting people, and I was giving out free information. I was giving out ebooks, and I did that for a couple of years. And then I found the Georgia Tech speech. And when I watched that, it was instantaneous for me because it just, to me, made the most sense in the world that like we're animals too. And and we're only one of millions. And there are other animals out there that are oppressed by humans to such a degree that they're not even considered victims at all, and to such a degree that the numbers alone are, any other injustice just pales in comparison based on the numbers. And so when I really faced that, when that happened for me, when I confronted that truth, it was instantaneous for me. I'm like, okay, the most important thing that I'm actually doing here with this whole plant-based thing, with this whole seeking truth thing, and with this whole what do I want to devote my life to thing, was that I'm actually standing on this side of this injustice. I'm no longer the reason it's happening. But I was still doing things at that point because I was plant-based that I was actually part of the problem for wearing leather, and sometimes I would eat fish once or twice a year because my girlfriend at the time wasn't vegan, and I don't think she's vegan at all now either. And so I felt like that Georgia Tech speech really changed me on a visceral level. So it started like that. And that was 2013, 2012. I still don't remember exactly. I think it was 2013 to be exact. But I don't remember exactly what month it was or day it was that I went vegan. What I do remember, however, is the day, or the month rather, that I became an activist. Because that was much more significant for me. Because I had broken up with that girlfriend I just mentioned, and then I went straight into being on the streets. But before that, I was online making vegan posts, and I was arguing with people. You'd argue with people in the comment section.
Facebook is where it started.
Facebook, and Instagram, but mainly Facebook. I would frequent vegan publishers, that page, and whatever posts they would have on veganism, there was always someone in the comments trying to negate veganism, and then I would argue with them and make my own posts, and that's how it started for me. My activism started like that.
If I could just, for a second, because many people may now have heard, you called it the Georgia Tech speech.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the speech of Gary Yourofsky was referred to as that term. I guess that's the university where he held it.
Yeah.
So for anyone...
The famous Georgia. He did many, I think many of them there, but that one was the famous one, yeah.
For anyone listening who doesn't know the speech that we are talking about, if you type into YouTube, best speech you've ever heard or best speech ever, by Gary Yourofsky, you find the speech that has really touched and changed on a visceral level, like you put it, so many people through Gary Yourofsky's words advocating for veganism. I do have quite some criticism about the speech because it is quite spiritual, but since you said that you were on a rather spiritual path, I guess that's also a reason why it clicked so hard for you. For example, he says that the oceans have been enslaved. And I wouldn't say that an ocean as an entity is something that is an individual in how I would put it. It's a rather, spiritual hippie. He said some hippie things, I would say. And he also retracted from some of the things that he said about bone density and cow's milk. But overall, it's a very well-made speech. It's very emotional, but also... It was the first time I ever heard the word speciesism, and I think it was the first time that word was ever viral before. So he definitely left such a huge mark on people like you and even me. And it was the time that YouTube started, I think, to go have viral videos, and this was one of the first speeches on YouTube that was viral. So we're very lucky in a way that it was a vegan speech and not a carnivore speech or something. And I'm glad it found you and that it made you click. For me too, I started commenting when I first turned vegan on Facebook because I didn't think who would argue against these arguments. Like, of course you can criticize some parts of words that he used, like is it slavery of an ocean, for example, but just the logic of speciesism and the terrible exploitations that animals go through. As soon as you turn vegan, maybe that's why we're so enraged at the beginning. I would never have imagined somebody who would argue against that, who would argue for building more slaughterhouses. So I can definitely imagine you watching that speech, you starting to be angry at Facebook comments. And did you then believe that your work as a nutrition expert was too little?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. I also started to feel like humans don't really deserve rights unless they are innocent themselves.
Wow.
Yeah, and so why am I like trying to push for someone to be healthier? Like why am I invested in their human right to be healthy? Their human right to pursue well-being when they're not, they don't even seem to care about their own well-being. And it's also kind of nosy of me to be like pushing for people to be, but that the information needs to be out there. Yeah. But I didn't want to be a nutritionist activist, if that's even a thing, or a health activist. I didn't want to be that person because at the end of the day, I just felt like most of these people that I'm trying to help are actually responsible for this injustice, which is the largest and longest standing injustice in the world, objectively speaking. It's not an opinion. It's not just my viewpoint at that point in time. That's the viewpoint of 3 trillion animals every year. And that's an objective fact. So I couldn't overlook that fact. Once you're faced with the truth, you can't unsee it, you know what I mean? And that's what changed in me. Yeah, and I also just felt an obligation morally that like someone has to do something about this. And you're right about, like Gary's speech wasn't perfect, but you have to remember that he was doing this at a time when no one else was really doing those speeches.
That's why I said I'm so glad that he did.
He was by himself pretty much doing these speeches around the college campuses around America. Leading the way, you know, laying down the blueprint for how to actually communicate this message to people. And it's interesting that you say spiritual, because I never saw it that way. I can see your point, but I actually connected to it at that point in my life because he's very poetic in the way he speaks. He's also quite funny, and that makes sense because his biggest inspiration was George Carlin, the comedian.
I don't know him.
He's a fantastic comedian who speaks a bunch of truth as well. He's a very big truth teller. And anyway, so he also used to be an artist. He used to be a rapper.
Gary Ruff.
Gary,
Yeah.
yes.
I learned a lot from him, and I think it's great. I think just some things we have to sometimes. I'm sorry if I can't phrase it that well in English, but we have to reduce some of the exactness of the message in order to maybe even make it more palatable for the masses. That's why I have slogans like in German, "Be vegan, not violent." Even though I do recognize that even as a vegan, you are violent in some ways in life, and I am not against all forms of violence. Maybe we should be even more careful sometimes. Maybe we should need to talk in asterisks and little commas everywhere, but that's not how humans communicate. We can, especially when we have someone who is not that deep into the topic. I don't think that we should water it down, but sometimes we have to talk in these poetic metaphors, and some people just don't. They will not understand what we say when it's about exploitation, but they understand the suffering. And that's a huge distinction that we have to make when it comes to discussing animal ethics. But it's very difficult for some people, especially if they aren't cognitively inclined or to understand the concept of rights, of ethics. So that's why we use, and that's, I guess, also why the Cube of Truth uses imagery of animal suffering, because that's a universal language. Suffering is this universal thing that we understand. But the concept of why that suffering is wrong, that's much more difficult to put into clear words.
Yeah, this is actually a really deep thing we could get into, because this has been my work for 8 years, is trying to like find the best way to communicate this. Like what I specialize specifically in is street activism. I'm a street activist first and foremost before I'm a director of an organization or a founder of an organization. Founding and directing an organization wasn't even part of the plan, really. It was, I want to be the greatest street activist on the planet. I want to be the best at that. And then building a platform for others so that we can train and support others and give them resources to be the best they can be also at doing this became part of the plan, because that seemed like the best way to scale up the impact.
Once you believe you have maxed out your skill set, you want to have the next goal of finding a way to make everyone reach that skill set.
Not quite, because I still don't feel like I've maxed out. Like it's been a process since day one of just chipping away at this. I feel like mastering this is never going to be a point, you're never going to get to a point of perfection. But along the process of mastering it, I want to also take people with me and train them on the most up-to-date way to do this according to our experience and our understanding of what the most effective way to do this is. And that's what we've been doing with our workshops, and that's what we do within AV. We constantly update our protocols and our approach, you could say, and our principles based on our experience. And it's sort of like updating your software on your iPhone every 6 months or something.
I think, but you said something, someone who's considered to be a master and masterful as a skill set, he would answer exactly the way that you just did, that there's still so much to learn.
Yeah.
Because if you believe that you had learned out, you would probably be having the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yeah.
So I think that was a very wise way that you just gauged your own success and your own skill set in street outreach. And it's probably very difficult, but we will probably get into that, how to even measure success. Like, what is an effective street activist?
Yeah.
You can only measure that by your own standards and by the reactions you get, and if you believe it would have turned you vegan. But before we get into that, we were just at the point where you said, okay, you had that nutritionist platform, you watched Gary Yourofsky's speech. Before we enter the next chapter of your life, probably being the vegan activist, how did you finance your life up until then?
Yeah, so I was working in sales still up until this point, because I needed a job, right?
You didn't get money through the nutrition?
No, I was, but it wasn't enough. I was still working in sales jobs. So I was consulting, but I charged a very fair price, and I didn't have like a huge clientele base, so I wasn't making enough money from that to be able to finance my life outside of working for a company in sales, whatever sales team they had. And the same thing was applicable for my music. I wasn't making enough money from that to be able to move away from sales. So I was still doing that. And then the decision came that like I needed to get out there and do street activism. So I started doing some volunteer things and doing some different campaigns like pay-per-view, where you would pay someone $2 to watch a 4-minute clip. And then I tried...
Did you do that on the streets?
Yeah.
Did you give someone $2 and they stood there and watched it on your screen?
As part of an organization in Victoria, in Melbourne, yeah.
Let's get into those details, though. How did you find that organization? How did you decide that it's street activism you want to do? Because obviously you were already setting even up work online, so that was something that already existed, that you knew of. Why did you decide, okay, I have to take this away from just sitting in front of my computer to actually hit the streets with the vegan message? How?
Yeah, like making social media posts didn't feel like, for me, like that was enough. Okay, so what my vision was initially was, okay, I was growing more and more passionate about this vision of me being an activist to address this situation, this issue. And I thought, okay, I need to be a YouTuber. I need to be, because at that point...
That was the first point.
Yeah, well, at that point, that seemed to be the pathway, because this is literally... I started at the same time as, like, all these other big YouTubers.
Vegan YouTubers,
yeah,
you mean.
that you know now. Like,
yeah.
And I started literally at the very beginning of that, when they all had, like,
did you know them
less than
back then?
10,000 views. Yeah, I connected with them through meeting them at vegan festivals and things like that.
Sorry, this is going too quickly because I really want to get into the details.
Yeah.
Paul looks at the video of Gary, says, I have to be a vegan now.
From that point, you want to know what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, so from that point, I'm still working in sales. I'm doing social media posts. I have this vision in the back of my head. I'm going to go all in on, like, doing YouTube activism. I don't know how long that's going to take before it becomes financially fruitful for me to be able to do this full time and not have to have another job. So I'm going to keep working in my sales job while I chip away at that, and I would make, little videos here and there, vlogging videos. And then I was like, I need to get out there on the streets and do volunteer work with other organizations, because that's what I thought I needed to do in order to do street work.
Was that because you saw it in other YouTubers, vegan YouTubers video, that they did street work and that you also wanted to do that kind of content? Or was it some kind of, I have to be and talk to the people?
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I just had a drive to talk to people directly, because that's what kind of person I am. Like, I did direct sales as well, and I'm a people's person, I guess. I don't know it sounds lame saying that, but I mean, I just have a drive to talk with people directly. And and so I don't know, I forget what the inspiration was exactly, but I started volunteering, and it wasn't just to do street work. I would volunteer with these organizations just to help with their sanctuary and to run errands. Like, they needed a box of brochures delivered to somewhere, and I would drive it there for them and things like that. Yeah, like just cleaning up poo.
Awesome. Okay,
in their
really
sanctuary.
Started from the bottom.
Yeah, literally.
Activist.
Yeah,
okay.
literally. And then I started. I wanted to get more involved with this organization in Victoria, and I wanted to be more involved in their social media team. But there was a wall. I was met with a wall, because, like, they only had their people that they trusted, that they worked with, and I was this new guy, and, like, they didn't really know me, and that's understandable. So
new activists burn out a lot. They probably recognize, okay, he's a new guy, he's like vegan since 2 hours and cleaning up poo.
I'm super passionate, I'm willing to do anything.
Everything for the animals. He will burn out in 2 weeks. And that's actually something that I have seen happen a lot of the times. At the beginning, just a short anecdote, when people came up to me and said, I want to be like a YouTuber and vegan and help you and do something similar, and these are my skills, I will do everything, I will take all the time. I got such messages. I looked at one video and I sent them money for equipment, and I learned the hard way that most people, after a month, or as soon as like 2 videos don't perform as well as before, they just quit.
Yeah.
And they don't even like pass on the camera. They just die from the face of the earth, and they probably thought the same of you, but you didn't. You had that ambitious drive in your artistic ways, and then took that over to vegan activism.
Yeah. So then decided to do my own thing, right? I didn't want to wait for an organization to validate me. opportunity. I wanted to create my own opportunities. So I just thought, all right, I'm going to put this event together where it's going to be a street activism event, and it's going to be inspired by Earthing's experience. At that time, they had started like just a year before that. This is in 2016, I'm talking now. And Earthing's experience started in 2015 in England. And the concept was basic, have a mask on, show slaughterhouse footage on your laptop, hand out something that says watch Earthlings, and that was pretty much it. That was the whole concept. And I thought, yeah, let's do that, because then I can outreach people. So I organized this with Asal, and then I had some vegan friends and I asked them to come along. And
Sorry, did the Earthings experience let you just organize their concept?
well, Earthing's experience is not an organization, right? It's just a concept that exists out there.
So you can just take a laptop, show Earthlings, wear any kind of mask, and just say, we're doing the Earthlings experience.
You don't even have to show Earthlings. You could show, like at that point, what we decided to use was the 4-minute video that was created by Chris Delforce. So it was called Thousand Eyes, and it's still available. It's on my YouTube. I actually uploaded
watching?
it.
Is it good?
It's really emotive, and it made me cry recently. I showed it to a classroom in Taipei of 33 students, and for 4 minutes I was like holding my tears back. Like I've seen it many times, but that music that is used, which is the song Thousand Eyes, along with the powerful images, especially of the sow crates with the pigs, like that, it just, yeah, like it, even thinking about it right now makes me super emotional. So
can you repeat what it's called? Because
Thousand Eyes.
Thousand Eyes, and you can find it on YouTube too.
So yeah, you have to type in Thousand Eyes animal agriculture, or the reality of animal. You have, because the Thousand Eyes song would come up otherwise. And Thousand Eyes is on my YouTube channel if you want to watch it there, because I put it up there just to make sure it's like going to stay on YouTube.
Yeah.
So you can just type in Thousand Eyes Paul Bashir if you want,
That's
and you'll
super
find
useful,
it.
because we have to find ways to distribute downloadable content for people to show, and to just hit the streets without joining anywhere. So thanks for that advice, and guys, download the video and use it. So you did that there, and you met Asal there.
So I met Asal before this, actually. So we were like, yeah, let's get out there and do this. Like, she wanted to do it as much as I did, and we went out and we had some people who joined for the first event. It was like 10, 12 of us, and we just formed in a line, right? And we called it Thousand Eyes Experience. So we were trying to do it a little bit different. And it was the first time that that kind of activism had happened in Melbourne City, Australia. So a lot of people started to hear about it in the vegan community, and the next event we did, which was 2 weeks after that point, we had a huge turnout. It was like 40 people.
Wow, okay.
Because the word had spread. And at that point we were trying different formats. We tried a line against the wall. We tried to do a big circle, and we had tried a couple of other formats. And then I think it was the third action that we did, we decided on a square. And then we were like, okay, this is...
backs on backs.
A cube like you see today, yeah. So we decided that that was clearly the best, and we had never seen anything like that before on the streets. And we thought, okay, well, let's work with this. So it was really a matter of building it as we went. We didn't think of this concept and then go out onto the streets. It was like, let's just get out there and do it. And then we figured it out as we were out there. And then every event we did, we would chip away at it, make it a little bit better each time. So we started with signs that would say different messages on it. You know, watch to see why we're here, see it through their eyes. We had one board that had like grass-fed, organic, RSPCA approved, you know, humane certified. But then we noticed that the reactions we were getting were like not ideal, because they thought that we were promoting, in that case, RSPCA approved, humane certified, make sure it's free range, make sure it's organic. And so we're like, no, that's not what we're saying to you. We're saying that this is that, and that is false. And anyway, so we decided on just the word truth, because I heard Chris Delforce say that truth is the most powerful weapon we have. And I heard Gary Yourofsky say that as well. And that stuck with me. And especially when Gary said that, it was something that like stayed with me. And I thought, yeah, why are we, that's all that matters here, is that this is the truth. So let's just, anyway, so then at one point, I think it was the third or fourth cube, I said during the debriefing, that was a really powerful cube of truth. And I just said it like that. And then after I said it, like people kind of laughed because it sounded funny, but it was also true, like it was a cube of truth. And then I thought, that's actually really good. I think we should keep that. So we kept running with that. Then over the course of 17 cubes that we did, and we still weren't calling them cubes of truth officially, but internally we were calling it that. Asal and I decided that we were going to quit our jobs because she was working as an interpreter and I was still working in sales. And we were going to save up money and we were going to use that money to live in Thailand so that we could lower our expenses and focus our time on this full time to devote ourselves to this organization and to the activism that we had just started in Melbourne, because we saw the potential of where this could go. And we wanted to make it a global thing. I was focusing a lot on social media. Like I knew that that was the ticket, and I knew that I needed to make as much video content around it as possible. So I was working with a camera, like some people would volunteer, bring their cameras and record or photos. I would make sure I work with all of them. Like if you have photos, please send them to me. If you have videos, please send them to me. One girl said she wanted to make a video. She was recording public reactions and things like that. And I said, this is a great idea. If you want to make a video, let's work on it together. So I would work on it with her and say, no, let's change this. Let's add this music. Let's finish it this way. And then we'd create these videos and then put them out there and they'd get so many views and then so much inspiration around like people would feel moved by them and they would want to get involved and do what we're doing. Then when we moved to Thailand and started working on this full time, I was also working on YouTube a lot and I was making a weekly update video for everything that was happening within AV. So I would give an update on like, okay, so like the first chapter we opened outside of Melbourne was Chicago in the United States.
International already.
Yeah, that was the first one outside of, yeah. And then it was like Tasmania and other parts of Australia, but we started opening up overseas first. You know, one in India, and then it was Copenhagen, and then, you know, it just started popping up everywhere. But then I reached out to Gary when we had, I think, maybe 12 chapters, something like that. And this is when he was active on social media. He had a 2-year stint, and it was during that time. And I said, here's this video, and it was called Public Reactions. You can see it on my YouTube video, Public Reactions to Animal Cruelty. And that video was the one that I made while we were in Melbourne for those 17 events, working with a volunteer who wanted to make a video, like I mentioned before. And that video was so powerful that I sent it to Gary and I said, it would be really great if you shared this because we're running this organization. We've got 12 chapters around the world so far. If you think this is a good initiative, then it would be awesome if you could share this. He shared it. He made this awesome post and he shared it and he said, you should join this group.
Wow. And
our inboxes were inundated. So this is why, like to this day, I always give credit where credit's due, and I always carry the baton that he passed on. Like at the end of his retirement statement, he said, tag, you're it. And I always like hold his values up. I uphold his blueprint and his sentiments. And it's because I feel indebted to him. Like I feel like what he did to help me in our mission and to help AV gave us the boost that no one else was willing to give us at that time. And it's the best cosign I think you could probably get in the game. So yeah, he said that, and then our inboxes were inundated. We ended up getting messages from all over the world saying, I want to do this, I want to do this. And I thought, shit, I need to write a manual. So I wrote a manual on how to do this exactly, and we still use that manual today. We've updated it, of course, but And on the first page, we said, you're welcome to copy literally everything in this manual and do this under a different brand. You don't have to do it under AV.
I love that you say that, because many activists are like, you have to credit me for this and this and this. And even if you share my equipment or my pictures, or it shouldn't be that way when it comes to veganism.
I agree. Yeah.
Sorry, you
I've
were just
experienced
writing
that
about
many times
manuals,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you don't have to do it under AV, but just please call it something else. That's all we ask, is that you don't call it a cube of truth. That's our creation. So that's all we ask. Like, just call it a square, a diamond, whatever you want to call it, but don't call it a cube of truth. And most people got the memo on that and respect that, even if they disagree with us or hate us, then like they still call it something else. But then there are some people who didn't get the memo, or they got the memo and they're ignoring it deliberately and they still call it that. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway, we sent out the manual to all these people that were inquiring, and we started to build our chapter base. And we're still living off our savings at this point, doing this work. And we were also doing cubes for the first time in Thailand. This is the first time that vegan activism had ever been done on the streets in Thailand. We started doing that in Chiang Mai, and then we opened up a chapter in Bangkok. So we're doing that simultaneously while running this global project, right? And then we were able to start selling merchandise. But, you know, it doesn't make a lot of money, but it was enough for us to like pay our rent or our bills. I don't even know if it paid our rent actually, but it was like enough for us to envision like, okay, I think we can do this. We can like make this happen, I think.
Because of the merchandise, you already felt like this has potential to be, that I can do this
full time. Yeah, like this seems like a sustainable thing that we can do.
So did you up to this point where you started the merch, did you call for donations? Did donations come in? Because I know from quitting my job,
we didn't know anything about this.
You didn't?
We like I said, we're street activists. You know, this kind of like fundraising stuff, we're not professionals in it.
No,
and even the merchandise thing, like we weren't making a lot of money. It was really, like I said, living in Thailand is extremely cheap.
Okay.
And I don't even remember it paying our bills, like our rent. But it helped, obviously. And it helped, like you said, to give us that confidence. Like, maybe we can do this.
Confidence part about getting donations. I have to stress that when I got my first donations on PayPal, I just set it up because it seemed empty to not have that, since every YouTuber or activist had that everywhere. I didn't expect... Actually, I didn't know I could expect, you know, just did my thing because like you, I was driven. And then I looked at my PayPal one day and someone had sent me 500 euros, 500 euros.
Wow.
That was like one of my first donations.
Wow.
And I messaged him and he was like, yeah, I saw your videos. I thought you were unique and like driven. I think driven is what you also had back then. Just the vision, you had to do this. And he saw that in me. And I felt so touched that somebody, out of like me being a doctor, the only thing that I had identified with was my drive in the normal kind of career, and somebody saw the same kind of drive and ambition on another topic that I built for myself that I thought was 1,000 times more important on this planet.
Yeah.
And I saw that number and I was like, if he truly believes so much in me that he would send me 500 euros, then I need to start believing in myself even more.
Yeah.
And every single donation that I got and that you get in as organization is not only the money's worth, but it's also the trust they put in you.
I know, right?
Wow, it touches me so much.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because when we received our first donation, I had that exact feeling, that thought of, oh my God, there's people out there that are seeing what we're doing and they support it. And yeah, that happened when we were in Thailand towards the end of our time there, because we were there for 7 months. Our goal was to be there for 2 years, to like last off our savings for 2 years.
Didn't work.
And it thankfully only took us 7 months to build AV to a global phenomenon. So then we had to return back to Melbourne. But just before leaving, we met someone who we started talking about what we were working on. And he was like, okay, cool. And then afterwards he sent me a message like, where do I donate? And that was like, oh, we don't have a donation button on our website.
Jesus.
Yeah, so
you had merch before you had a donation button. I do understand that you said you had trouble like figuring this whole thing out. You don't come from fundraiser, but it does not, like, setting up a store. I know how much work that took, and I had to do it
No, we
twice.
didn't even have a store. We were just for for our organizers only,
Yeah.
we were communicating in messages. Okay, like we'll organize an order for you.
And you just did it with a little bit of a margin then.
Yes, exactly.
But-
and we were just
wow.
trying to like get our organizers to represent the organization
Oh
well.
my. So it was just
So
for
it
the
wasn't like
activists
it
that
was just for the
called.
organizers and their team.
That's
yeah.
insane. And you actually got money margin from that to pay off bills in Thailand. It must be really cheap there.
It is.
I didn't know that.
No, it is. But like I said, I don't even remember to what extent exactly we paid our bills with that money.
Okay.
It was just enough for us to see, okay, maybe we can do this sustainably. But like I said, we, even to this day, we're not professionals in fundraising. We are just street activists
You shouldn't
who run
have
an
to be. You
organization.
shouldn't have to be. It's so much that you have on your plate right now, especially in the face of a fucking Holocaust, and you have to
Yeah.
do like content creation and take care of your health and do the whole organizing. And then it's hard to have like your eye on how do I actually sustain my income, and that's why I think it's double courageous that you and Asal, you just quit and you
Yeah.
said, I don't know where my next check will come in, but we have some savings and we have to get this thing
Yeah.
on like standing on its feet. And that's, I think, the most courageous thing that you can do for the animals and for putting your whole life aside that way. I think it's fascinating. So you came back after 7 months and you said, okay, AV is a thing now, it's
Yeah,
global.
huge, yeah, at that point.
And then you started setting up a box, and what was the next step to make it more huger? Or
So our goal was to, at that point, we had become the most global animal rights organization within 1 year, right? So at that, and then we started setting up in places like London and the UK where Earthing's Experience was also operating, but then AV was really like just all over the world was just becoming a phenomenon. And so our goal was to continue just focusing on inducting organizers to get as many organizers on board as possible.
which year was that?
2017. So we stayed at a friend's house. They put us up in their spare bedroom, and we lived there for 6 months, I think, just inducting organizers every day on our laptop. Literally just taking meetings every day, inducting organizers and then doing these live hangouts with them, and then answering questions and that's what we were doing every single day. And then I got invited to go to the vegan campout and do a talk, and it was for 20 minutes. We also got invited to the vegan campout to do a workshop, and that was 2017. So we thought, what a great opportunity. Let's raise money. So we did a fundraiser, a GoFundMe, to help cover the costs for us to be there. And I used my YouTube, like I just put it out there on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, like we're going to vegan campout, donate if you want us to be there. And we didn't reach the fundraising goal, but it was enough to just pay for the tickets. And so we went, and then I attached a bunch of cubes to that as well. So it wasn't just the campout, it was also going to Exeter and going to Cambridge and going to London and doing all these cubes. And then also went to other parts of Europe, I believe. At that point, we just wanted to check out what was happening in some of our chapters in Europe at that point, like Amsterdam and in Belgium and things like that. And then came back to Melbourne again this time. And at this point, we were struggling financially and still living off our savings and what little money we were making from donations from our, at this point we had a donation button and merchandise. Then we got an opportunity in 2018 to be funded, to be sponsored by a larger sponsor. This opportunity came to us as a acknowledgement of how many people were talking about AV, how many chapters there were, and just how effective it seems to be in terms of scaling up this project. And So yeah, that acknowledgement came in. We ended up getting very small amounts of money initially. It was just like, here's enough money to pay for a new phone so that you can record videos, or for a laptop. And then it was, okay, so how do we keep you and Asal doing this full time? So like, how do we make sure that you're safe, that you don't feel like you need to go and do another job, because that would be drastic for the organization. So then we would send our budget for what we could live on and what we could, feasibly imagine us living on for this full-time work. And then we would have that covered. Then we wanted to hire people, because we're an organization. We need people in the organization, such as a fundraising manager, which unfortunately, I've learned this now. We never hired a fundraising manager because we didn't know how important that was at the time. Since we found this sponsor, we thought, well, we don't really need a fundraising manager because we've got a sponsor. But we hired people to help with HR, because we had a lot of human-related conflicts within the organization, as you can imagine, with intersectionality issues, with other just so many issues between humans. And Asal and I were dealing with all of it. And so we hired a HR manager. Then we had a social media team, and we paid people to run that team, and then also the manager to manage that team. And then the inductions team. And then we also provided a small amount of money to our regional organizers. Then we also created the AV Fund. And the AV Fund was something based on something that you were saying earlier, which is, initially when people get really into this and they show a lot of passion and dedication, we need to know, is this going to last, or are you going to burn out quick, right? So we had a criteria that if you were doing at least 1 cube per month for 6 months, so only 6 cubes.
Only one a month, that's a low criteria.
It's really bare minimum, right? I know we probably should have made it higher.
Yeah.
But that was your entry point to get the funding. So you could apply.
How much was the funding, and what was it for?
There were 3 tiers. So it depended on like your activity, it depended on how much, how big your chapter was, and how much equipment you actually wanted. And so, yeah, the highest tier I think was 2,000, and then you could buy TVs, battery, everything you needed. So yeah, that AV fund was rolled out, and we ended up building up until 2019 and 2020. Up until 2020, we had 26 paid members on the team. It actually reached 30 at one point, but at that point, when we hit 2020, when it was consistently operating, it was like between 26 and 30. But at one point, we had our funding cut from us, and we can talk about that. But at that point, we had 26 paid.
Before we go to the cut, I want to go through the high before we go to the low.
Sure.
You had, were those full-time jobs?
No, not all of them.
Okay.
But many of them, yes.
Okay, wow. Yeah. So people also quit their jobs in order
Correct.
To go to AV
Correct.
And support this. So once again, that must be massive trust that they give the organization.
Absolutely, yeah.
I can believe that you have a lot of pressure also financially as a additional heavy weight next to the animals on your shoulders there. So that's definitely something that people overlook when they see such an organization, the people running it. They don't realize that having like financial like families partly that are dependent on you paying them on this job, on this that this is all hanging in there, especially under this you don't really know where donations go if you're not in the hype, like you said at the beginning. Like, I know YouTube hypes, I know social media hypes, and they are draining, and they always come faster than you expected, and then they're gone, and the donations also go. So I think for Anonymous for the Voiceless, you have to fight through all the highs and lows and just make it exponential. And you need a stable income for that, without the worry of not having that. For yourself, and to be able to pay these people for the network to work.
Yes.
So how then the funding was cut, so you did not have the possibility to pay for the stable network anymore. Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. We had to, our team members who were paid, we had to ask them to like return to the workforce and get a job working for some non-vegan company or, you know, something like that. And that's, so this, during the pandemic was when it happened. And this was literally the darkest time of my life. I went into a really deep depression for 2 years. And I only sort of came out of it 2022 and 2023 when we did One Damn Week last year. Was that point of time was when I finally like breath of fresh air, like, oh, I'm back to doing the work. Because we could, like, for so long we weren't even able to get out and do cubes in Melbourne. On top of having our funding cancelled, on top of having to ask our team members to go and get non-vegan jobs, and for us to not have enough money to run the organization properly anymore.
And you were missing the contact as a people's person, you said, with the people probably.
I just wasn't doing activism on the ground anymore. I was doing live streams. I was doing 6-hour Q&As. And I was doing, you know...
Going mad.
Yeah, so many Zoom workshops. I was going mental. And yeah.
Can I ask why the funding was cut? Or is that
let's
something,
talk about
okay,
it. Absolutely.
Because I have heard, I was like the face of positive veganism radical veganism. I was, and maybe still am, in German countries. And for a time, like, I was really going exponential. And then people started telling terrible rumors about me.
Yeah.
And it hurt personally. And I knew sooner or later something like that probably always happens to someone who is considered a rising star. And I guess that is what happened with Anonymous for the Voiceless.
Yeah, you know, I really appreciate this conversation because you do seem to understand quite a bit here. You've also said that, like, Asal and I do need to have a full-time wage. Otherwise, how can we continue this? I don't think a lot of people who may see this understand that.
That's what we're trying to bring across.
I don't know why, but I don't know why people seem to think that if you do activism that you shouldn't have financial security.
Because I think most activists see activism as a hobby, as a side thing that they do to pat on their backs.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that might disenchant some people about activism too, but we shouldn't just see it as something holding a sign for an hour and having a picnic afterwards. We can get into
I think that's a distinct difference.
Yeah,
that is a huge point you're making.
But you are driven by ambition, and I heard that from your story. I didn't know that until now, but you said you wanted to pursue a career in the arts, and something you met your idols, I guess, and you worked with them. So that's even a point where many musicians don't even go to. Most people aren't even as dedicated to learning an instrument, and you wanting to make a career, not even wanting, but actually pursuing that. Yeah,
and I had some accolades under my belt before I decided to move away from doing music. And you know, the music industry can be very lucrative. It can be very...
It can, but you have to have the fucking discipline, and that is something. And I know it's very harsh for many vegans, but you will not achieve a point of actually seeing real change and having a real impact as an influencer, and influencers have impact if you aren't ready to take the grind.
Yes,
it's not about posting an animal picture once a week and holding up a sign. Everything that you do is great in that direction, don't get me wrong, but if you actually want to have an organization that has international impact, that is in the media, that changes pop culture, that changes the discussion about veganism, then you will have to put in as much time as for a full-time career, like 8-hour days. I think, to get back as my own personal anecdote, I stood on the streets when I quit my job, and I had the work ethics through studying medicine and through seeing the career that my mother as a doctor also did. And in my life, in my journey, good grades, the studying, and in short time doing my doctor's degree afterwards, that was something that I tied my identity to, that I got praise for. So good grades, good successes in my job, that meant love, that meant my identity. I tied that together. And as traumatic as some people may see this is, I don't really see it that way. I think it just makes me an ambitious person because I tie that to my identity, my work. I think my output is more worth than just my thoughts. Just thinking that you want to change something doesn't change anything, and I don't grade people on or judge people on their nice thoughts. If you say you're against racism, but you spit in the face of people who have a different skin color than you, then I don't care about your thoughts. I want your action. Don't just say that you want to be a good vegan activist. Just do it.
Yeah.
And the same time and energy that I used to invest into my medical studies, or that my partner Toby, who is a team lead, a professional and very disciplined, he now invests also in animal rights, and we have to have the same kind of work ethics when we actually want to change something. Why should we treat this as a hobby when we then go and say that this is the most urgent thing on the planet?
Exactly.
That is hypocrisy.
It's completely absurd.
It's absurd, and we shouldn't even. Then that's what I wanted to say. I think the difference between why also my videos took off and why AV also took off, and it's always a bit of luck. It's always a bit of algorithm. It's always a bit of the time. Yeah. Always. Every person who is at the top also had a chip of luck, but you can only use that luck if you're also combining it with your discipline.
Correct, yeah.
So I stood there when I quit my job and I was like, I don't know how I'll do it, but I have to do this. And I have to, I went to the streets and did that 4 times, and I was like, we're just talking one-on-one conversations. This is not going to change anything. Like, why aren't we putting up YouTube videos? So it was the first one in my chapter was called Hope for the Voiceless, because they were like, AV is bad, whatever. We can get into that afterwards. And they didn't really tell me why AV is bad, but it was the only thing around, so I joined there. I was like, why are we just holding signs that say, I don't eat anything that poos? Is that really the message? Is that all that we're gonna give people? I started to film and to record, and I was met with criticism, with skeptical gazes, with "Are you really sure?" And then I suddenly had 1,000 followers on TikTok, and I told like one of the organizers, and I just wanted I wanted him to be proud. Like, my family used to be proud when I had good grades, and he was just like, okay, whatever. And I was like, I think we should record this for the whole organization. You should always be recording every cue. But if it's just taking pictures and putting on it was always, yeah, we might. Dudes, you're standing here for 2 hours. You're going to eat at a restaurant 4 hours afterwards, spending as a bunch 150 euros on food. And that's how you think you'll change the world? Instead of going to eat, because I didn't want to spend money on that, and I didn't have it, to be honest. I think they didn't either. I went home, I cut my videos, I put them on YouTube, I put them on TikTok. And if you just put out videos and content like you did, and just try to, like you said, fiddle with everything, even if you're not from that scene, you want to get these emotions across, you will have something take off. You will have someone else be touched by something that touches you.
Yeah.
And that is how my videos took off. Instead of doing the things that held me back, like you said, cutting away those distractions and really focusing on it as the moral emergency that it is, I think that is how I took off with my videos at the start. And I think that is also how AV took off. And whatever niche you're in, whatever skill set you are bringing into this fight against animal exploitation, you will have to work at it as it is, as you would for any other full-time job, if you really want to have this impact with it. So I think definitely that is something that warrants and that needs a full-time wage.
Yeah.
Otherwise you will go mental. Doing the same thing at the same time. I used to work full-time at the hospital and do this full-time.
Right.
Go to Germany for a 10-hour train ride every single weekend, doing podcasts or cubes after my full-time work. It's fucking draining, and you cannot go on with your health for long like that. You should really focus on that one thing and give it everything. And we can only make that possible if we get you and other important parts of the Anonymous for the Voiceless network a full-time wage that you can just count on. I think you should definitely...
Well, I really appreciate us doing this. And how old are you now?
I'm 28.
So you just left your hospital career
4 years ago, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, and this is the thing I want to touch on is you're doing this during the most youthful time of your life, right?
Yeah.
So you could be using your youth right now to pursue literally anything in the arts, or continue to do something in the medical world, but you're choosing to do this. And I think that's phenomenal. In our case, I could have also just focused on doing music, right? And giving myself to that. I could have also, gone out and been this health professional and put myself out there using my youth to be a health professional. And
I do have to say, I don't want to get like my head patted for having made this sacrifice, because I do not see it as a sacrifice. And I do think, if you're honest, that you don't see it as a sacrifice either. You just have your priorities, and life is about choosing the regrets that we have. And I think I would have regretted more not doing this path than
I was
the
actually
other one.
literally going to say that yeah, I don't see it that way, but what I'm saying is that we are deciding to do this at a time in our lives where it's most important, not only for the issue itself, but we have the most energy to give to this right now. And I think when you align yourself with the severity and the urgency of what's going on, and you give yourself fully to it, then it's only right that we should be able to do this and not do it worrying about how am I going to pay my rent next month, or oh shit, I've got a surgery coming up and I can't afford it. These are the things that
you just said it's only right to get this full-time job. I just want to make it clear that I don't think that we should have this kind of superior audacity mindset. Not saying that you have that, but I do see it in some people who just say, yeah, I've done 2 YouTube videos, like why don't I have 1 million followers? Where is the money? Like, how do I make the merch? I'm just like, I love your ambition and your drive, but this is not how, like, it just
has to
really
be deserved.
It has to be deserved, and I think the best proof of deserving something is having it, and you can't just say I deserve this now because I have the mindset. Every vegan has the mindset, but you need the discipline. Like, everyone wants the mindset to have muscles and to be very fit. But the mindset alone, it just takes the grind of going to the gym and hitting the bench and the bar and whatever the gym terms are to grow the muscles. You have to be there. You have to put the work in.
Yeah.
Just saying that you want to be the fit person doesn't make you deserving of the muscles yet.
So that's exactly. I think, that's exactly my point, is that if you are doing the work and you are giving yourself fully to this, then activists shouldn't have to be worrying about the financial struggle. Because if you look at the movement currently, the activists and there are many activists who give themselves fully to this, and they are, I think, underfunded. And then there's also organizations who are, I think, doing really good work, but they're also underfunded. But with AV, you asked me what happened. Did you want to go into that?
Let's carry on there, because I have so many
side points
that I still want to discuss about that. What happened that made it was a one-man sponsor, or was it an organization that sponsored
I can't get into it too much.
Sorry, I don't even
just
want
because
to,
I respect the anonymity of the sponsor.
And I don't want to get you like cancelled by mad or something.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
And it's always bad to talk, like, you shouldn't talk bad about sponsors.
No, it's fine.
I want to understand what would take people to stop donating to this effect.
Well, we've already talked about it publicly, so I'm happy to get into it further. But even though they stopped funding us, we've always maintained respect for the fact that they requested anonymity. So that's why I won't say exactly too much about like where the money came from.
Okay.
But anyway, it was coming from one source, and then June of 2020, we put up a post on social media calling out the Black Lives Matter protests for using pigs' heads, right? This was front page media, all over social media, newspapers, marches using pigs' heads. And we saw that and we thought, why isn't anyone saying anything about this in the vegan movement? So we said something about it using our platform. And I believe we were the only ones who actually did that, especially with the level of influence that we had. So we said, this is unacceptable. And I'm summarizing the message in the post, you're using oppression to promote anti-oppression. And you'd think that intersectional activists, let's call them, you'd think that they would be in favor of our post and support us in our message because we're being consistently anti-oppression.
It doesn't work that way. they only go to the vegans and say you're not anti-racist enough, but they would never go to someone who is anti-racist and say, oh, it's not okay that you're not vegan.
Yeah.
They're not that intersectional in both ways.
No, which means that intersectionality is actually being used as a guise for human supremacy.
Yes.
It's actually, they should be called human supremacists, the people who act this way, not intersectionalists. That's just a cute term to hide human supremacism. But anyway, so that was at its peak. Intersectionality or wokeism, whatever you want to call it, was at its peak June of 2020 during the pandemic. That was like literally the highest it's ever been. And enough of them grouped together, let's say, and pressured our sponsor, because that's what they do, cancel culture.
I know.
They attack people by attacking their sponsors.
Or you can't sit with us anymore.
Yeah, like it's essentially trying to cut off anything that helps you to continue doing your work.
Yes, and even if you just talk to, for example, like right-wing people about veganism and show them how terrible that is, then you're also a Nazi suddenly. Anyways, that was something that they did to me, but I want to say one more thing about that. So they cut off your ties and they try to frame you as a monster, as a racist, as anti-human rights. But they would never, the same people, go to the Black Lives Matter people and write their sponsors that it's not okay to use the pig head and this.
No, they wouldn't dare.
Because, like you said, they must have this human supremacist mindset that it's not allowed to make that comparison, but this is...
And they use excuses, like some of them were saying, maybe it wasn't a real pig's head, and it was, we confirmed it. And then they said, oh, but this isn't the time. It's not appropriate. Well, when is the right time?
But the other way around is it's the right appropriate time to tell you that you're apparently a racist for calling out species.
And getting our funding cancelled. Apparently that's appropriate behaviour.
People cannot accuse you of having fraudulent business or something if you are ready to prepare a document from an independent person looking into that.
This is why I say I feel like there was more happening behind the scenes. It didn't seem as clear cut as what it was being presented as for us. But even with that first donation I mentioned to you that we received while we were in Thailand, the first ever donation, I remember, without even being asked, sending him, hey, by the way, this money that we're so grateful that we spent it on this and spent it on that and he was like, wow, thank you so much for giving me the update on this. And I actually attached receipts. And like we've always been like this. Like if anyone ever requests receipts from us through our website when they make it, because we don't send everybody receipts for everything because it's just like too hard to track.
Also,
all these smaller donations that come in.
You should be putting it somewhere else.
And so, but if people say, I want to know that this money that I'm giving you, like I want to know where it's going. You know, like by all means, we have different needs within the organization, but you may not know what those needs are. But if people request, okay, well, I want to make sure that this money is going to your salary, or it's going to pay for the cost for running the website, or whatever it is.
But is it really possible to funnel one single donation in that way? Because that's not usually how donations...
Well, for campaigns it is. I know that for sure.
And for GoFundMes, I get that.
Yeah.
Like for single issue things in your organization. But if I, for example, like I usually, I think I told you before, when I donate to Anonymous for the Voiceless and the whole organization, I want to set up like a cube and give them the materials. We can get into why I would do that this way, or what different forms of support for you are possible later on. But if I go to the website and just think, Anonymous for the Voiceless, those young children, they seem so ambitious for the animals. I want to donate now. Like a granny who can't go to the streets herself. I imagine her just sending over 10, 50 euros on the website through the button.
Yep.
I think that they or she would just like trust the organization. Maybe she saw that ambitious Paul guy do his thing, and I wouldn't know where best my money is, and I would just trust you and the organization to be built in a system that spreads that money over the network where you need it. And you just said, I wouldn't know where the money is needed at the moment. Maybe you run Facebook ads for a very viral outreach video that you think, it's always just thinking, we don't have stats on what turns people vegan the most. Maybe you believe that that's the most effective thing right now and we just have to go by guts at some point. But like I said, we are also living human beings, and you have to pay bills.
Yeah.
You have to have rent, you have to have food. Maybe you want to go to the cinema someday, and I think it's fine. If I trust the donation, I also have to trust the people. And if I trust that they will also have to maybe sometimes take a break, take a breather, go to the cinema, but still do the work that they're working.
Yeah.
They only came there through their ambition. They won't stop that. I don't believe. And that's why I pay, but I don't need to know exactly where this goes. That's how I believe the people who are donating to me think, and that's how I would believe I would want to fund you.
That's how I would
Yeah.
also donate deserves it, or an organization who I think deserves it. Yeah.
But I cannot, I don't think that it makes much sense to believe that you are entitled is maybe a too harsh word, but I think you're not entitled to then get like, this is how much you spend on toilet paper. Like it gets to a level of absurdity.
It does, yeah. People have every reason to trust AV and the way that we have been doing things financially. There's rumors out there that because of this situation that we aren't financially transparent, but that's absolutely not true. And every reason to trust the organization is actually right there in front of you if you really look at, for the fact that, I mean, basically, like I told you, I went into a really dark depression, right? But I didn't quit activism. I'm still doing this. And after that dark depression, 2023, got back out there, did the best campaign I think we had ever done, which was One Damn Week. And then I attached a huge tour to it, ended up doing so many cubes as a result afterwards throughout Europe and the UK. Then this year, One Damn Month, and then all these other campaigns. This year has actually been the most active that we've ever been as an organization, that I've ever been as an activist. And I'm 8 years deep into doing this. I'm not going to let up.
Burning out.
No, I actually have more energy and passion now than I have ever had before.
That's amazing.
Plus, I have more wisdom and experience than ever before. So I'm using this time to do the most effective work that I'm doing at the largest scale I've ever done it at before. So with that, I think people have a lot of reason to trust that this is not going to stop. I'm not going to quit doing this, even though for the last 4 years I've been surviving off my savings to continue doing this work, and what little money we're receiving through donation sales and merchandise, donations. What did I just say? Donations and merchandise. Yeah,
it's donations and merchandise.
That's what I meant to say. And then that has helped to keep the overheads of the organization managed, but it's still, most of our savings have gone into doing these campaigns and doing all the traveling that we're doing and running the organization in general, paying our rent while we are working full-time doing the work that we're doing. So the priority for us right now is to just be able to live doing this work full-time, Asal and I, because we're the only ones that run the organization full-time. And then we have other people in the organization, like core team members, who are also contributing at a very high level, but they still have jobs or they have other things going on in their lives. They're not full-time in this like me and Asal are. And we'd also like to be able to take care of them in some way, shape or form, so that we can all just continue to do this work with less financial stress. And then we want to be able to also hire people, contractors, to come and work with us part-time or full-time, especially a fundraising manager, a marketing manager. Social media. Those are the three things, the main things actually. Fundraising, marketing, and social media. Like that would really help us to build our own funds independently. And then on top of that, we need to have you know, like the AV fund that I mentioned to help our chapters globally. We would love to have that in place as soon as possible again. We're doing, I think, the training that we're doing, I think, is the most important thing we're doing. These workshops that we do around the world are training activists to be the most effective they can be when they do their outreach. That's the one thing I think that AV is like super specialized at doing, is training other vegans and getting vegans to be active as well.
That's where I learned too. Like the first activism I did after Hope for the Voiceless, I thought that was not enough with those colorful signs, and I came to AV and was like, oh, this is a whole nother level. And we did the workshops, and I gave the workshops. I hope I did you justice. I translated it to German because it was in English back then, and we wrote the whole script in German, a bit more detailed than you had in the map, and we tried to pass that on because I saw it exactly like you. We have to build the people to actually have effective conversations, because what is AV if we don't have effective outreach?
Exactly.
One more thing that you said what gets people, why you should trust AV, and I believe I met you and I saw you at the Cubes and I saw your dedication to this, and I became vegan and an activist through in Corona, and I saw some of your videos back then, and your dedication, your ambition, and the sincerity that you talk with about this project, this topic, it has not faltered in a single way. I think you have even been like you said, more fire in your words now. It's more touching and inspiring. So that for me personally, even though I have stepped back as an organizer myself, I do believe that you are in this fully, and I do trust you. And since you are the face and the head at the moment with Asal of the organization, for me that is enough to trust the organization. I see the dedication of the people working at the Cubes, of Ollie, for example, a friend of mine who is very strict, but very...
That's why we love him.
Yeah. Very adhering to the protocol and always happy to give me extreme good feedback and telling me why he is so strict about some parts. I think if that is what AV brings forward, then that is the kind of level of skill, mastery of this outreach, of this topic, of this ambition, of this discipline. I love to see that in vegans, and I think it's rare there, and I think it's so rare in vegan organizations, and I don't think that you are someone who would go waste your time, your money. So that's why I trust the organization, and that's why I believe everybody who even sees the Cubes, who thinks that this could be impactful, just walking past, just having the conversations had, please consider donating through your website.
Yes, you can become a monthly donor through that.
Especially like monthly, I think, is more important, especially if it's just a bit every single month. You guys, you go to eat after your activism. Every time we spend 10, 15 euros easily, like have one drink less and spend that every month into the donation of Anonymous for the Voiceless. Or give it to a single Cube and the organizer even there, or give it directly to Paul if you...
Even if every person who followed us on social media, even if only 30% of the people who follow us on social media donated the cost of a coffee once per month, then we would be in a much better position as an organization.
Do you want to talk numbers, or is that something
we
that
can.
you... Okay. How much...
But first I just want to thank you for that acknowledgement. It means a lot to me. This has been really difficult, and emotionally, mentally, physically. I've run into health issues doing this over the course of this tour that I'm currently on. And I just want to thank you. I really appreciate everything you just said.
I appreciate everything that you do. One more anecdote. Sorry if I'm too... I don't want to overtake this, because I think this is about Anonymous for the Voiceless, but I just want to make it clear through these stories how difficult it is for an activist in this topic that is so polarizing, and for some people uncomfortable to make money, because essentially we want people to change everything that they knew about our treatment of animals, and that is not something that is very positively seen by the media, by the people that we talk to. We make them uncomfortable because only through the discomfort we get them to change.
Correct.
So that's not as entertaining in a positive way as YouTubers or people who hold something that they sell into the camera with fun music. Obviously,
it's not as safe or comfortable.
It's not as safe. It's not as comfortable. The brand deals don't come in, and
Correct.
I don't even believe that the brand deals are a helpful part of actually translating the vegan activist message. But just for myself, I have been like a radical militant vegan from the start. I don't condone violence, but I have done some disruptive activism. I've looked up to Tash Peterson, but I see myself as a morph of Gary Yourofsky, you and Anonymous for the Voiceless, Tash Peterson, and that vegan teacher. And I've tried to make my own unique activist self through looking up at these people that I thought were effective. And I dare to say even that I have been one of the most effective German-speaking activists in the last 4 years, reaching more than 800 million clicks on TikTok alone through my main profile.
Wow.
And I could not live through only my social media if I weren't doing OnlyFans. So I don't want to say, I was so poor, I had to do OnlyFans, and it's such a terrible thing that I had to do this. No, it is my full-on decision. I am a grown woman, I know what I'm doing, and I think we're always selling our body in every job, so I might as well do that. I don't see a moral problem with that, and I don't try to put myself in the victim position of being forced to do some labor that I don't want to do. So that's not the point that I'm trying to get across. I'm just trying to get across that even though I had this massive impact, and I do still, I want to make it clear that every other influencer who would have reached these heights, I had times where I had on every single video on TikTok 1 million clicks for 3 or 4 months or even longer. I was in the biggest singing shows in Germany. I was on every TV. I still get invited to podcasts at least once a month, and I am a part of pop culture in Germany. And I don't mean to say this to brag, not at all. I just want to put these points down to make it clear that since I am putting this message out in a uncomfortable way, and I'm not the happy singing buy this vegan thing vegan most of the times. I do every kind of activism. It's not like a usual influencer. It's not like an easy game, even if you reach those heights to get monetized. Even if you want to get monetized online, you can definitely, but probably not in the way that you and I are doing it, through making people uncomfortable. You can definitely have a great vegan impact through other ways, and you can message me privately if I can help you building up this, if you actually want the dedication to do this, but that's for another video, like I said. But I personally, even though I have more than 127,000 followers on YouTube and more than 500,000 followers on TikTok, and I put out content every single day, from the videos alone, I could not live. From the donations alone, and thank you so much to everybody who has been supporting my work and who is supporting my work, I would not be able to finance myself fully to a degree where I can go and do activism everywhere. I could probably pay my rent and eat rice and beans, which would be fine. But I don't want to just be fine, and you shouldn't just be fine and worrying about bills. I want you to have the air, the breather, to say you're going there to do a workshop, you're doing this workshop, you're hiring someone. And I want that for me. I want to be able to support you. I want to be able to spend those 25,000 euros that I spent on chapters in the German speaking world and build those chapters. I want to be able to do that. I want to be financially free in that way. And I don't think that there's a moral issue with earning money to be able to move, to inspire, to spend on cameras, on gear, on people who work as a social media people for you, because the meat industry, the animal exploitation industry, they have so much money, and they can, with a snap of their finger, roll out a whole campaign to try to feed more of the line argument into the media. So we need activists who are willing to do this full time, who are willing to take money and to spend it effectively. So that's
otherwise, what chance do we have?
What chance do
they have? Because, at the end of the day, the victims are only relying on vegans. And if vegans can't be full-time activists, if they can't fully dedicate themselves to activism and being the most effective activists they can be in the world, then what chance do we have?
Exactly. So that's why we need this money to funnel people like you, to funnel this work, to funnel the equipment. And I personally like to spend money on AV in the way that I build the chapters. So when people in Germany, they know that through a person, they contact me and say, hey, we need two TVs, I think roundabout you would agree, like a new chapter with all the equipment needs about 1.5 to 2,000 euros. Would you agree with that sum?
That sounds about right for an active chapter. Yeah, for a new chapter, probably less, like at less than 1,000.
I want to have an.
You want them fully set up.
Yeah. Because when I go to the city, I want to be able to also borrow stuff like a pavilion, or I want to be able to go there and tell them, hey, we're doing this tomorrow, so you have no excuse now.
Right.
So yeah, I want them. we usually get. I think 1.2 would be more realistic, but we also get the signs. We have big signs that they don't really, they're not AV specific, but every activist should also be able to go out and just do something spontaneously. So yeah, 1.2 to 1.5 I think is realistic for pavilion, for TVs, for batteries, for signs, for masks, for clothing, for even if the organizers have to get there, for a train card, for that kind of thing. And that's just a money thing sometimes, and it's part of the network. It's just part of the game. Reaching more people, marketing associations, they spend thousands of euros on promoting a product like veganism. In a sense, I think, and you come from sales, so I'm open to discuss this. But I think we should be seeing this whole thing of making people vegan as selling the product of the vegan identity. And we have to make them aware of the problem, like you do with the cubes. You have to present the solution, which is the product becoming vegan. And then you have to tie the identity of the people that we outreach to the veganism, because most people who once were vegan fall back because they did not tie their identity to the ethics of it. So people who are once Apple customers are probably Apple customers for the rest of their life because they tie their identity to the comfort, to the human thing. I don't know. Sorry if I'm too elaborating right now, but I think this is good. I'm just really passionate about trying to get the sincerity of the marketing impact and across. And I think it really just is a numbers game sometimes when it comes to reaching people, but also the finances of it.
Yeah, I think that's correct. But yeah, what you said about the meat, dairy, and egg industries, I think people need to understand that, like, look at how much money they have funneled in their direction, like the amount of power that they have. We don't have trillions of dollars. Like, they have all the resources they need in order to carry out any agenda with regards to getting a message out there that veganism is bad. If they want to attack veganism, they could roll out billions of dollars if they wanted to today to roll out campaigns.
They do that. They want to, and they do that.
Yeah, I'm saying could, but yeah, you're right. They actually do that. And people, through rumors that started from this whole thing that I mentioned in 2020, have criticized and scrutinized Asal and I because our financial reports are public, right? They've criticized us for how much money we took as a salary. And my question to those people, if they're watching, I don't think that they probably would have gotten this far with this video, is like, how much do you think that two people who are running an organization should be paid?
How much did you take?
Well, it was 90,000 Australian. I don't think that's...
I can't... I don't know how much that is.
Australian dollars is like...
It's like euro.
It's like euro.
No, it's not. No, not at all. No, euros is much stronger. Okay. Much stronger. Yeah.
So 90,000 for two people or for one person?
No, per person. Okay. So that's probably, I don't know, 55,000 euros, maybe 60,000 euros.
Yeah, that's...
I don't know. And so if I'm asking the question, how much do you think we should get paid? Like, we're running the most global animal rights organization. We, at that point, had the team that we had that was getting paid, were getting paid 800,000, the whole team, per year. So the majority of the money that we were getting sponsored was actually to our team. And then we had the AV fund, which was 250,000 to give to the chapters. And of course they had to apply and go through the criteria and all of that. But my point is that Asal and I are the directors, the ones who make the executive decisions. We are the ones who run the organization. And if you look at, let's say, the manager of McDonald's or the manager of a slaughterhouse, how much do you think they get paid? But we're running a vegan organization that is the most widespread around the world, has more chapters on the ground, more vegans on the ground doing this work than any other organization. We're also doing, I think, the most effective form of outreach in terms of like just one-on-one conversations that are under 3 minutes, under 5 minutes most of the time. So with the footage as the context and then the conversation, I think that we provide the training and the resources and the support for vegans to be able to do that most effectively. And and we're still growing and getting better every year. And I just think people need to understand that again, I'm not trying to claim like, oh, I'm not saying this audaciously. I'm saying this for context, because people need to understand anyone who is doing anything like this or wants to do something like this should have an open path. You know what I mean? They should see it as possible. Worry
the whole time.
They should see it as a feasible option for them, as a possible option for them. Right now, I think a lot of people are scared to go all in. You know what I mean? Like, they see this as, no, I'm going to run into financial issues. A lot of these people are like, I don't want to worry about not being able to pay for my phone bill. So why would I do this? I think I'll just stay in this safe job that I have, 9 to 5. I make this square amount of money, and I'll just do some social media posts online, and maybe once a week I'll go out and do a cube. So that's currently how most vegans operate as activists. And I know that a lot of them say, I hear this a lot. They send me messages a lot. How do I do this full time? I would love to be able to do this full time. I respect the fact that you're doing this full time. But the only difference is that I took the risk. We took the risk of, I'm going to save this much money and live off it, and I'm going to make sure it works within 2 years.
And if it doesn't work, I will do OnlyFans and just make it work. You fucking make it work.
My mentality was there is no plan B.
Yeah,
but even
exactly.
if it doesn't work, I'll figure it out. I'll go back to sales. I'll do. Yeah. But I just didn't want to do anything else. I wanted to,
My answer to the question of how do I do this full time is do it full time while you work something else full time. It sounds insane, but that is just the price you will have to pay for a while.
That's exactly
because
what we did.
You will not get to deserving full-time salary if you don't yet work full-time.
Yeah.
So I did, like I said, my doctor job. I went home, I cut videos, I quickly ate while I did my little live stream, reached 50,000 people, posted a video, reached around 1 million people. Like, you just fucking grind while you grind.
Yeah.
And see if you actually are as passionate about finding solutions, you will fucking, you will do so. And if that takes whatever, if that takes doing OnlyFans, if that takes going abroad, living in Thailand to reduce the cost of your living, which was probably a huge cost to your social life back then.
Exactly, it is.
What do you do in Thailand? It must be fucking scary.
Okay, so in all honesty, I do appreciate the simplicity and the quiet life I live in Thailand. But it is socially, I do pay a price with that because I don't really have friends there. I don't have a social circle in the vegan space either. So there's no vegan activists in Thailand really either, because it's a very transient place, especially Chiang Mai where I live. There's not many vegans that actually live there. The vegans that are they're there on holiday, they come and go. There is a lot of vegan restaurants, but they're not really owned by vegans. They're owned by plant-based
restaurants. I really appreciate what you just said. You said, before you complained about anything, you said, I really appreciate the simplicity. And that just goes to show what I see in you, that you, no matter where you are in your life, you say you're thankful for this.
I am actually.
When I had no money as an activist, I was living off of the money that I made as a doctor, and I had a company that I made with a friend while we studied, and we kind of paid me out 500 or 600 euros a month. That was pretty much my salary, and it was in minus every month on my savings, obviously, with 600 euros a month. And I knew I wouldn't be able to do this unless I fucking kicked off the other thing, and I actually did have to go back to the hospital for a while because it wasn't taking off.
Right.
And then I quit again. I did this twice, and I took the risk twice, and if it doesn't work the first time, then I will fucking saddle my consensual vegan horse and do it again until it works. But it does take, I think, a certain, I don't know if it's a personality, I think it's a skill that can be learned, but it's fucking painful, and it takes this being able to see, hey, I was happy with the simplicity of my furniture. You get more possibilities, you get other problems, but you still have to be, sometimes you also if you get more money, you do spend money on things that you sometimes believe, okay, maybe that wasn't the best thing, but you learn from it, and the next time you do it better. And maybe you would do some things differently with your money now, but that's, like I said, you trust in a person. You don't know if your dollar will be the same effective dollar if I give it to you now, or if I give it to you a year from now, or if I should have given it.
That's a really good point.
Last year, the money that I spend on activists, that I give the foundation of Anonymous in the way of spending for the cubes, or even giving directly to an activist who says, I struggle with cutting videos because her name is Alexandra, because she's very sound sensitive, and I was like, here, 50 euros for helping with the fund of your headphones. I just trust the person because I see the work she puts out. I see the work ethic, and that's what I want to see in people. So it shouldn't be about the dollar itself. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
I should still want to tell you guys, if you want to spend money on AV, please do, and the money is much appreciated, but it's always the trust that actually also helps so much in forwarding this message in this organization. The battery died, but you didn't miss anything because we were just taking a break.
Yeah.
And we are nearing the end of the podcast. Thank you for everyone who has stood by my harsh criticism of organizations, or more of vegan activists until now. And I'm going to give you the word now because I think you wanted to sum something up as where even the money goes.
The money goes to funding campaigns and keeping us able to do this work full-time, active throughout the year, throughout the world. And we do specific campaigns like One Day a Month, which we just did in Amsterdam for 31 straight days, 9 hours per day for the whole month of August. And then we have done a bunch of other campaigns attached to that during this time that we're in Europe. Next year we plan to do even more things like that. There's an activist who's still an organizer with us to this day. And her name is Victoria. Shout out to Victoria in New York. And when the first time I was in New York with Asal, we were there to deliver a workshop and to do a cube. And this was in 2017 or 18, I think. And this time we didn't have a sponsor. And I remember she gave us a donation. And she said, I don't even care if you use this for activism. You can just spend this on whatever you want. I just want to support you for what you're doing. And I think about that from time to time still, to this day. And it's people like her who I feel indebted to. It's support like that that has actually kept me going. And obviously the victims are front and center. That's the reason why I'm still doing this work, obviously. But the support that we've gotten along the way, and that specific moment was a huge breakthrough, I felt like, for me and for us, to know that there's really people out there that want us to continue doing this work. This is going to be supported. It's not just going to be a failed effort. So yeah, that was really moving. I actually thought about that just today. And and I just wanted to say that I mentioned earlier how much Asal and I received as a salary, right? But that was only for 2 years out of the 8 years that we've been operating. For the first 2 years we were operating mainly off our own savings. And for the last 4 years, we've been operating mainly off our own savings. And I just want to mention that it's not like we've been receiving this salary for the last 8 years. You know, it's only those 2 years that we had this sponsorship in place. And if somebody, let's say, out there wanted to sponsor us for that specific purpose of having me and Asal receive a salary, if they wanted to provide that funding for our salaries, we could, it doesn't have to be that exact number. That budget was based on the sponsor and the budget that was approved by that sponsor and what they agreed to with us. And that salary was only coming from that sponsor. It wasn't coming out of the donations we receive through our website or our merchandise.
That's important
sales.
Information for many people because they agreed that you were worthy of that sponsoring, specifically you as a person, and they saw you worked so many years on your own savings on building this baby. You also have to maybe even lay stuff back for the future, because I don't know, but I don't really have like a pension. I just try to save things up. I don't pay in some kind of, we're activists. This doesn't apply to us in this way.
Yeah.
So the donation going to AV, and you are part of AV, but you as a person were sponsored by the sponsor themselves. That's a very important information, I think, for many people to have. And it shouldn't really make a difference because you are this, but for many people it might.
Yeah, I think the people who complained and talked all this nonsense online about us, or just in general, they felt entitled to where that money was going or how much money we were receiving. But that wasn't anyone's money other than this one sponsor who agreed to that.
Yeah,
and
your
it was something that was approved through the budget that we gave. So I just wanted to clarify that that if there was a sponsor out there that wanted to help us to continue doing this work with our salaries full time, to be able to continue doing this work full time, it doesn't have to be that figure. It could be a figure that we agree on between us, and the rest of the needs that we have as an organization to run campaigns. And I don't know if you want to, maybe we can talk about that, because I don't think people also truly understand how important the campaigns are that we do. This is what we specialize in, is doing robust, creative, powerful campaigns on the ground.
What is a campaign from Anonymous for the Voiceless?
So a campaign could be initially, let's just talk about Amsterdam. We initially did One Damn Day, which was 24 hours, Dam Square, over 800 activists in attendance. We had at one point over 200 people in a cube. That's how big the cube was. We occupied all of Dam Square, which is in the heart of Amsterdam, and we converted so many people to veganism. I think it was well over 3,000 people in one day.
You counted them?
We actually did a tally.
Yeah.
Now, these things are not accurate, if I'm being completely honest, and I know that you can relate to this.
I know. We never know. But
we never know.
Only say he shook the hand.
Yeah, there's things like that we go by. Like, you know, they took the issue seriously. They walked away saying they would change. Well over 3,000. And then we did One Damn Week last year, which was 8 straight days, 12 hours per day. We had already done that in New York City in 2019, but we now brought it to Europe and did this last year. But this time, it was 4 years since Week of Truth, which we did in New York City, and we have evolved a lot as an organization. We've refined our protocols, we've become more effective, I think, in our training and with regards to how we communicate the message and stuff like that. So this time it was way better, way stronger. Many people have said to us that it changed their lives as vegans, as activists. And we had over 300 people in attendance throughout the week for Week of Truth, for One Damn Week last year. I also did a workshop the day before we started Week of Truth, One Damn Week, and there was 120 people in attendance for that workshop in Amsterdam. So just to give you the numbers on like how many people showed up, and we convinced well over 3,000 people to also, but at this point we weren't doing tallies because we also have this philosophy that we should be focusing on each interaction and the quality of each interaction as opposed to the quantity of how many interactions we're accumulating. But I know that the numbers matter, so it's only fair that we say well over 3,000 because based on how many people I was hearing from our activists who said, oh, I got 7 people, 8 people. I was doing the numbers in my head because I mean, as a director of the organization, I need to kind of understand how effective we are being. Another thing that we look at is the amount of cards we give out because we only give them out to people who are seemingly open. If they're not open, we don't even offer them a card because it's just a waste of resources. We also have to view that thing that we're giving them as like a, not a gift, but
the trust in them having understood it.
Yeah, like you're open and you've earned, like you need this and you have earned it basically.
I tell them sometimes to put it on their fridge or put it somewhere where they see it, even if they already watched the videos, because then they remember the urgency of the matter to not forget, or put it in their purse or in their phone in the back so they see it if it's see-through. Yep. So it's more like a token of you do not have an excuse anymore. Right. I think what you just said was also great because I hear it so rarely from vegans, is that you're process driven and not outcome driven because the outcome follows the process.
Exactly.
I love that. I love that you apply that to veganism.
We're very big on that because it's quality over quantity. We want to be the most effective at. And we want to be honest because, like, unless you have private investigators that follow people,
what did you eat for breakfast?
Right, you're not going to know exactly that they went vegan or became an activist as a result of your interaction with them. But the things that you can control, and I say this during my workshops and briefings a lot, is that it's only down to 4 things: what you say, how you say it, who you say it to, and how long you say it. They're really the only 4 things you can control. So since we can't force them to be vegan, like, we just have to perfect those 4 things as best we can, become absolute masters at those 4 things.
Can you repeat the 4 things that vegans can control in their outreach?
What you say, how you say it, who you say it to. Are you talking to people that are reachable or not? And we have a 3 strikes you're out policy where if you have addressed 3 of their excuses and they're still not satisfied, they're not listening to you, they're just wanting to throw more at you, playing whataboutism games. Oh, but what about plants? They also suffer, but what, and they're not listening to any of the responses you give them. We think it's a good assessment that after 3 strikes, if they're not listening to anything you have to say, then you're talking to someone who's not reachable. There's no point in playing the debate game, the intellectual back and forth debate game. It's not going to work, in our opinion, most of the time. This is not like a perfect thing, but we have to have these policies in place in order to make our activists more effective. But also, this is part of our mental health care plan that we have baked into the protocol. So some people ask, well, what do you do for mental health for activists to make sure no one burns out? This is one of the things we do.
Don't waste your time on people you can't reach.
Don't bang your head up against a wall with people who are just going to drain you of your energy and take your power away. And they don't care about your power. They actually want to take your power away.
Mock you, vegan.
Right, because you're the one making them feel guilty. You're the one who's holding up a mirror to their character that no one else is going to do in their entire lives.
Walking guilty conscience.
And so of course they want to attack you, but it's not personal. You're just the messenger. It's easy to attack the messenger when they want to be a victim, like, how dare you attack me, so I'm going to attack. They see it as justified to attack you, but they're really supposed to be accountable for victimizing. And that's the easy thing to do, is play the victim in that scenario.
Instead of taking responsibility and having the hurt yourself, redirecting the hurt at someone else.
And so you're supposed to look for people who have the integrity and character to be accountable. And there's only certain amounts of people that are out there that are ready to be that person right now in their lives. So we shouldn't waste time with those who are not that person. And then how long do we say it? So even if they are listening, then we shouldn't be talking about this for too long, because it makes it seem like it's a complex topic that you need to go home and research. You need to go watch all the documentaries, read all the books, look at all the websites, watch all the YouTube videos. That's not actually true. You don't need to do that. It's very simple. And the more simple we communicate this, I think that the easier it will be for people to digest it and to take action on this immediately, right? So it's a matter of whether you respect non-human animals or not, enough to not exploit them to death for you. You either want to be the reason that animals are exploited to death in the most heinous and disgusting ways possible, or you don't want to be that person. You want to be responsible for what's happening on the screens at Cubes, or you don't. And it comes down to the character of the individual. It doesn't matter how perfect you deliver it in most cases. It's whether that person is willing to change or not. And so we should just keep it simple with those kinds of people and get to the point and find out who we're talking to, tell them what they need to hear, say it in the best possible way we can say it. And yeah, those are the 4 things we can control. Now, we do get a lot of feedback. Yes, I went vegan because of you. I saw you last week and went vegan because of you. We get emails, people saying, I went vegan because of this cube in New York City. We get people who join us immediately.
We do too, it's
amazing. They join the cube immediately, they jump in the cube. Or they come back the next cube and go, I went vegan last week because of you, now I'm joining you. So we get a lot of this as well. But for the most part, we don't know exactly what the impact is. And we also ask for a declaration from them now. So will you be vegan from now? And also, will you speak up and defend the victims?
That's in the protocol now.
This is in the protocol. Like, we've had it for a while, but now we're making an even more stronger point about this. That unless they give us that declaration, we should not be shaking hands or fist bumping or hugging them, because it gives them further validation and comfort in a scenario where, of course, they're seeking that from us, because we're the only ones in their entire lives that will ever hold them accountable. So if they're going to get that validation and comfort from us, that's only going to make them even more complacent.
Yeah, they get absolution for their exploitation of animals, and that's not what we're here to pass out. We're not here to pat their back for reducing the animal exploitation.
And people might say, but that's disrespectful. People offer to shake your hand, you can't decline them. No, it's actually respectful. Number 1, to the victims, because you're defending them. Also respectful to yourself, because we shouldn't be accepting bullshit. The bullshit is this lie that it's difficult to change right now, or that you don't have a moral obligation to change right now. Those things are bullshit. Those messages, those ideas are bullshit. It is extremely easy to be vegan right now. All you have to do is choose different foods at the grocery store, choose different clothing, go to different restaurants. This is extremely easy, right? And it's a moral obligation. Anything else, suggesting anything else is absurd, completely absurd. So by shaking their hands, we're assuming that it isn't a moral obligation to change immediately, and that it is somehow difficult for people to change and to understand that they need to change immediately. So that's why it's not disrespectful. It's actually also respectful to the victimizer in some way, because you're assuming, correctly assuming, that they will understand that it's actually in their best interest to be given that truth. They need to be given that truth, that your actions are inappropriate and unacceptable. So your hand should not be shaken after the conversation we just had. We just talked about the largest and longest standing injustice in the world that you are responsible for. I made points that you agreed with. You said, of course, they deserve respect. You said you respect animals, that you're against animal abuse. And now I'm asking you to simply act that way. That's not a big ask. So for you to say, but you should still shake my hand, no. You have to earn respect in this scenario. And it's not like a reward that you get a handshake. It's just a matter of decency and making sure that we're having integrity in the message we're sending on behalf of the victims. So this is another way that we get like a strong declaration from people. So if they end up saying, yes, I'm going to change, and we do shake their hands, then that's a pretty solid sign, the most solid sign we've ever had in AV, that they're going to be vegan. And we also ask them to speak up, not to just be vegan. We need active vegans, because if vegans are not active, then what are vegans doing?
Eating tofu.
Non-human animals only have vegans to rely on. So we all need to be active by default.
I love your passion when it comes to this. I think I just got a mini workshop and I enjoyed that a lot. I think we're digressing a bit from your role as a director at the moment.
Thank you.
But I think you guys just saw why I trust his ambition and your passion on this. It's not only just the passion, it's the discipline. And every word you just said, I heard them. I watched a lot of your workshops, but they have only come to sound so perfectly aligned and so truth carrying, because you've been doing this 1,000 times over. And the more you do something, it's like a rock being polished by water. Your speeches, your workshops that you give, they are very polished now, and I think we just got a bit of that.
Thank you for the acknowledgement. Yeah,
definitely.
And to be told that like people don't want to donate because they don't see that they should donate to an organization that's normally done this for free. Yeah, we've been doing it for free for a very long time. That's exactly why we need the support now. We've earned it. We've deserved the right to ask for fundraising now.
To ask, you always have the right to ask. Like nobody is
exactly
has to.
No, well, we at some point I decided that maybe we should do the workshops for donation based. You know, when you go to a yoga class and they say, you know, you can donate more than €0.
That's a great idea, yeah.
So I thought that was a great idea too, but that also is something that hasn't apparently worked because people feel entitled. This has always been free, why should we pay? And I'm just saying,
you can literally watch all your workshops on YouTube if you like that. You put it up for free.
Exactly.
This is fucking work.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, well, do you want me to just do this for nothing and then have all of my? Where are my expenses going to come out of?
How did you get to the point where you can deliver wisdom and value through a workshop? That's a whole lifetime of getting this experience. This is not work that you cannot. You need food and money for that.
But people look at this very narrow-mindedly. Like they think, well, I have to pay for my expenses to come to his workshop, and I have to go and pay for my equipment to run a cube, or I have, you know what I mean? So they think, well, then he has to figure it out too. But you're literally, by saying that, you're literally telling me that I should go and get a full-time job outside of AV, which would make AV suffer. Like if I'm not doing this work full-time. But then it's crazy that I even have to explain this. Like that anyone has to explain this in a position like this. Of course, someone who's running an organization, the most global animal rights organization in the world, should be able to do it full-time and shouldn't have to get another job.
But that sounds ungrateful if you say it that way, but I understand exactly what you're trying to say.
But I have to remember, it's not personal, because I also know that I have to be a voice for all of the people out there who want to do something similar to what I'm doing.
So now we're talking to the camera, guys. I have been an AV activist from like 1 month after starting my activism, when, shout out to AV Vienna, when people brought me over from this disingenuous thing to AV. And I think many people who go to the cubes regularly, they take this for granted, the whole network that is there. You probably come 5 minutes late and then you see the cube is already built up. someone paid for those screens, someone paid for those masks, someone had to educate the organizer, someone had to make the organizer aware of AV in the first place, had to give him the cards, had to give him the equipment of filming and providing you the videos that made you even aware of the topic of veganism probably. And someone had to be the head of all of this marketing, and in the end of the day, like we established already here, please try to understand that even the organizers and him to an exponential part even more, they're putting in their life, and so are you at that point. Now let's also funnel our finances to make this possible. So that's like I said, that's why I paid for the equipment, because for so long when I did not have the money, I thought I didn't have the money, I always paid for the small things like batteries or something. You can always give something at that point, or do your own fundraiser for your cube, even if you don't, if you say you don't trust like whatever it is, then please just still raise your money to make it possible to reach more people and to make it more effective and to take some of the burden away by directly sponsoring your local cube. But guys, if you have the money to go and eat afterwards after a cube, then we all have the responsibility to make this possible, to have this whole fucking network, to not stop the progress that we have made, because the meat industry, the animal exploitation industry, they won't stop, but they will laugh at us because we have suddenly not have the funds anymore. And yeah, you said it already, you should be able to do this full time, and we will get you there. Definitely.
Don't they benefit so much of the fact that so many people don't know what it takes to be in a situation where you need the financial support? Many of the people who criticize the way that we're, like everything I just said about fundraising efforts not being supported, most of the people who don't support it, they've never run an organization before. They've never been in a position like yours before. They're not doing what it takes to you know what I mean? Most of them probably. Yeah. But also like just making completely baseless assumptions about things without doing your research and properly asking the questions is really irresponsible when we are up against, like you said, the meat, dairy and egg industries or the exploitation industries. So what I would ask people to do is, if you have even the smallest amount of doubt of what the money is going to go to, or any of the questions that you might have, actually communicate with us. Send us a message. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'll respond. I'll give you my time of day. He actually does
respond. He did before we knew each other in person. You responded me, and I asked you about accusations that were spread, that I thought were spread about me. That's a good anecdote at that point. So I heard that I was no longer welcome as an activist with AV, because somebody said that to me, and they just wanted to deter me from being an active part of this organization, because they said, they heard you were like, you talked to them and now you're a Nazi or whatever. And I wrote you and I said, Paul, is it true that I'm no longer allowed to come to the cubes? Like, that would fucking affect me. And you said, no. Like, he replied within 24 hours, if you have questions, why not go to the person first before like canceling them? Or
not supporting them, or telling other people not to support them. Yeah, like canceling them essentially. But I just want to say that, like, and if you hear rumors, like, question them. Actually ask. Be an independent, critical thinker.
You should.
This is what's lacking in society.
You should think that vegans.
We should all be doing that in all cases in life. But like, especially in a very sensitive, severe, and urgent situation like this, you should be asking questions. Is this reasonable? Is your feelings in this situation valid? Are your opinions actually founded on something that's true, that I can tangibly look at and see, okay, yes, what you're saying is correct information? Unless you can do that, then maybe someone is just angry for incorrect reasons. That's possible, you know. People can have false emotions about things. They can have incorrect thoughts about things. And I'm making a strong point about this because this has been something that AV has had to deal with for a long time now. And I don't take it personal. All the things that people say about me, it's like 99% not even personal. Like you said, there's jealousy, there's envy, there's people who are projecting their own insecurities onto you. They don't see themselves as trustworthy, and then they try to project that onto you and say, you're not trustworthy. And then they say, oh, but I make only this much money, and then misery loves company, right?
Yeah.
So you should only make that much money. I have to struggle every week to make my bills, so you should also struggle.
You're not a real activist if you're not struggling.
So what? What is that mentality? Do we want activists to be burnt out, to not see this as a viable path? Do we want the mess? That's why I'm saying, like, everything I've been saying in this is me being mindful of the tone I'm setting for other vegans who are watching this. Even non-vegans who think, if I become vegan and a vegan activist, is it going to be a viable path for me?
I don't believe that a single non-vegan has ever thought like that, but I like the idea.
No, but I would say, yeah, probably vegans. But maybe there is some non-vegans out there thinking, well, if I want to change the world with regards to this issue, I'm just going to end up being like a hippie, a broke vegan activist.
Might as well carry on eating animals.
Or it just makes it like more, you know what it does? I think it reduces the credibility of the movement.
Yeah.
Because it's just filled with struggling hippies. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Because
like, I remember with Gary's speech, which is my favorite one that he did, which is called The Excuses Speech 2014 in Detroit.
I don't know that one yet.
You should check it out, because I think it's the last one he did before he retired. And in that speech, in the Q&A, he got asked, so how do you fund yourself? And he said, the universe supports me.
I love that. He finds solutions, not excuses.
And I remember that stuck with me. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to trust the process. This is literally the energy that went into how AV started, because I'm like, this is our savings. I didn't even have that much money, 10,000 Australian dollars, and I'm going to stretch this out for 2 years in Thailand. And it's just going to work. Because I'm going to dedicate myself to this. Because I say it is going to work.
And you're not just saying it, you're actually having things
and
you
doing
follow
it.
up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
and that's the power of manifestation. Also, people may think I'm crazy because sometimes I think, no, it is going to be fine. Like this weekend, we're going to do the Cube. There's not going to be any rain. People are like, oh yeah, but the weather report. And then most of the times I'm right. Sometimes I'm wrong, of course.
I'm
but isn't it better?
myself from the spirituality here. I would
no. This is the spirituality.
Works if you actually set the goal, but also the tasks there.
No. You need to do what you need to do what needs to be done. I completely agree with that. I'm not trying to get too metaphysical.
But if we don't say that, you need to do what needs to be done. We just trust the universe. Then many people who listen will once again say, "Well, yeah, I'm a vegan activist now. Where's the money?"
No, you mentioned this earlier as well about the audacity of some people, and I want to go back to that real quick, because again, you're right. You have to do the work. See, when Gary said it, I was looking at an activist saying it who has, at that point,
done the work.
He spoke to 60,000 students, was doing more outreach than anybody in the movement at that point. And to this day, still, I think the most influential vegan activist on the planet. Yeah. Because of how many people he's convinced to be vegan as a result of, and also to be activists as a result.
At the time, and in the way, and with YouTube not even existing.
And we're still here today talking about him right now.
Course,
so the people who think, you know what, you should be struggling. You should, like you said, you should be otherwise you're not a real activist.
Yeah, they say the other way around. They say it lowers the credibility if I book whatever, an Airbnb instead of a mattress with ants.
So then by saying that to you, they're not taking into account your mental health, your physical health.
Yeah, that's especially.
The sustainability of you seeing this as a viable thing for you to continue doing, right? And then also they're not taking into account that we live in a capitalist fucking system. We didn't choose this. Did anybody choose to be born into a capitalist system?
I didn't want to pay rent when I was a baby, no.
Yeah, so this is the system we're in. Yeah. If it wasn't like this, then we wouldn't need to be saying the things we're saying right now, or to get the support we need to get in order to continue doing this. I love and I celebrate the fact that you, and I respect as well the fact that you are in an independent position where you're able to do this. And that you do stay in an Airbnb.
Too,
I'm actually glad for you that you stay in an Airbnb.
Thanks.
That you don't go and stay in someone's home. Like, even though you may save money from doing that, you're taking care of your future as a vegan activist so that you can stay dedicated to this mission. And I love the fact that you're making the moves that you need to make in order to support yourself as well. So I'm inspired by this. Thanks. By hearing you and your story. I don't know why people have a sense of entitlement or hatred or jealousy. I just don't get it. It makes me want to work harder by listening to you and your story. It's like, I think the response people should have, oh my God, you can do it, I can do it too.
Thanks. Yeah, I looked up to all you, and I guess I looked at your videos and Joy Carbstrong videos. Like I said, when I went into this I had the plan, I drew a structure, I made a mind map, I circled the people that I wanted to to be as a sum, and had that discipline to go through with it. And
that's manifestation, by the way.
If you want to call it manifestation, I'm fine with that. I think manifestation alone is often just seen as, I'll just be that one day. But if you don't work the way to the path, whatever, we're digressing. I think my brain is, I could go on with, I really love talking to you. I really love to hear about your passion, and having someone who has been through all this internationally. Like I talked to Toby, my boyfriend, a lot about this because we're in this together. He's also an influencer and working immensely. He's a full-time worker, but also a full-time activist. And I think sometimes he might even see me as lazy, even though, because I just do one job at the moment. But talking to someone who's been in this game so long and having the same struggles, having the same hatred, having the same financial, like, am I even allowed to, like, this reflecting of yourself and coming to the same conclusions at the end of the day with arguments that have built through the pain and the experience. It's nice to just sit down and rant and chat and also explain the troubles of all this. I hope people understand a bit better what's going on behind closed doors. It's not just the content that you put out, it's the whole organization of your own life, but also of the organization itself that goes unseen. That's not glossy work, that's not glamorous. That's the eye rings that you have from sleeping on couches. That's the trouble you have with people who want to criticize the wrong word you used in this video, and now you were not woke enough, and it's all a lot, but it can all be a little bit easier if people grant you the comfort, not even just the comfort, but just the bare necessities, and help you through that. If they trust you that you give your life to this with your work every day, and that's exactly what I see you do. So I think now would be the best time to sum up for everyone out there who wants to support you as a person or Anonymous for the Voiceless as an organization, how they can do it and why you believe they should do it.
So you can do it through our website, anonymousforthevoiceless.org, or you can go to jointhecube.com, go to the support us section. On there you can become a monthly donor, a one-off donor, or you can leave a legacy with us as well. I forgot to mention that earlier.
What's a legacy?
A legacy is like you would assign a part of your will to an organization of your choice.
So if you're gonna die, put Anonymous for the Voiceless in your will.
And great news, we're all going to die.
Great news. That's such a good idea. I rewrote my will like a year ago. That's a good idea.
You can choose to donate a part of it or even all of it. It's up to you how much to an organization of your choice.
So romantic date idea, rewrite your wills and put in Anonymous for the Voiceless.
Yes.
If you trust in the organization, I definitely do. Like I said, I think so. We can talk about my criticism of how we can make it even more effective. I think,
and I'm open to it.
I would love to do that, but I think this is enough for one session.
And thank you for your trust and your support. I appreciate it.
I will definitely continue. But to sum up, because I just tried to sum up for everyone now, we can leave a legacy. Okay.
Or you can become a Patreon member through our Patreon, which is also something you can find on our website, or you can buy merchandise. These are the ways to currently support us financially. Or if you want to avoid fees, you can message us directly through our website, or you can just contact me on Instagram or Asal on Instagram. But through our website would probably be the best. And we'll help you with making a donation directly to us, avoiding the website fees and the Patreon fees. And then another way to support us is to donate to our campaigns that we have on our website. We just finished One Damn Month. We still haven't completed the fundraising goal for that. And if we do any campaigns in future, you can also look at sponsoring those campaigns or donating to those campaigns. For me, myself as a solo activist, I've dedicated all of my work to this organization. I don't have my own personal Patreon. I don't have my own merchandise company. I don't have my own YouTube money really coming in. Most months I don't even get anything from YouTube. And if I do, I get the bare minimum, which is 100 Australian dollars in a month. I'm actually lucky to get that at this point. and I just don't have any way that people actually sponsor me or donate to me as a solo activist.
I think we should change that, but maybe that comes in the session where we talk
Yeah,
about how
sounds good.
marketing, fundraising can be more effective for AV. So all the possible ways that you can support this amazing organization, this man, will be linked below, will be shown here, will be pinned in the comment section below. Thank you everyone who is part of this, who is a street activist with Anonymous for the Voiceless, who's a solo vegan activist. If you want to be part of this, then come meet us at the Cubes, write him, write me, write your local organizer. Don't be shy, you can be an effective part of this, even just sharing this video. Media is incredibly important for this. This is why we're not talking one-on-one, but we actually have a camera in this room with us. So don't underestimate your value in this movement. If a single man like Gary Yourofsky, like you and your organization, like my partner Toby, like me, we can, everyone with their single reach and their single voice can reach so many people. And what inspired you to go vegan, your story will inspire someone who is like-minded. And we're so many people, there's always someone who is like-minded. So thank you so much. I hope this wasn't too poetic as an ending. Thank you so much for letting me pick your brain about your story and this.
No, thank you for doing this.
I'm really touched. I hope so are you, and have a great vegan day. Not being vegan is not okay. Guys, I'm sorry for just doing the peace sign. So now I'm going to be instructed once again how to do the AV sign to tell you all goodbye.
Right elbow up. Exactly like that, yes.
And don't smile.
No, this is post-cube protocol.
This is the smile he makes when he has a donation. Thank you so much. Have a great vegan day. Please share this podcast if you thought it was valuable. Please speak up for the animals. Don't be pick-me vegans. And watch Dominion if you haven't yet. If you're not yet vegan, watch Dominion on the AV website.
Yeah, cubeoftruth.com.
Exactly, cubeoftruth.com. Watch the movie there and see, look the eyes of your victims, and